Meanwhile, we do have some breaking news out of the Middle East that I did want to get to, and I did want to share this live look right here of the Israel-Gaza border. The very latest is that the fragile ceasefire in Gaza is facing its first major test today, as an Israeli security official has said that the transfer of aid into the territory has been halted until further notice after Hamas ceasefire violation and Israeli forces launching a wave of strikes. Now, the official spoke on the condition of anonymity pending a formal announcement on the halt in aid a little over a week since the start of the U.S. proposed ceasefire aimed at ending 2 years of war. Israel's military earlier Sunday said its troops came under fire from Hamas militants in southern Gaza and later said 2 soldiers were killed there. Israel's military said it then struck dozens of what it called Hamas targets. Health officials say at least 29 Palestinians were killed across Gaza, including children. A senior Egyptian official involved in the ceasefire negotiations said round-the-clock contacts were underway to de-escalate the situation. Now, there has been no immediate comment from the U.S. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu directed the military to take strong action against any ceasefire violations, but didn't threaten to return to war. Israel's military said militants had fired at troops in areas of Rafah city that are Israeli-controlled, that is according to agreed-upon ceasefire lines. Hamas, which continued to accuse Israel of multiple ceasefire violations, said communication with its remaining units in Rafah had been cut off for months and said, quote, "We are not responsible for any incidents occurring in those areas." And to speak more on this, I do want to bring in Enya Kervine with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies to talk more on this. And Enya, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
So what can you share with us as we have learned that Israel is now halting the transfer of aid into Gaza after it said that Hamas violated the ceasefire? It's a very tenuous situation already.
Sure. I agree with your assessment there. So what happened was, in order to get to the place of the ceasefire, what Donald Trump negotiated in his 20-point plan was that Israel would withdraw, the IDF would withdraw from Gaza to an agreed-upon line, and they would release some of the military pressure in order to get 2 major concessions from Hamas that Israelis have wanted since day one, that were goals of the war. One is to return the hostages, and 2 was to disarm Hamas. And these were the 2 major tenets and major strategic achievements that Israel has wanted to get done since October 8th, since this war began. So here we are, a week and a half into Donald Trump's brokered ceasefire, and Hamas has managed to run afoul of both of those main tenets. They have not been able to return the hostages as promised within 72 hours. There are still over a dozen fallen hostages being held by the terror group. And now they have broken the ceasefire, with the Hamas spokesperson just yesterday saying that the group will now refuse to disarm.
So what is the next step?
So Israel now, having released this military pressure per Donald Trump, having pulled back to these agreed upon lines, has one more line of leverage that it can use on Hamas, and that's the aid. So now what it's saying to Hamas, after Hamas killed 2 soldiers just this morning, again violating that ceasefire, which it was already violating by not returning the hostages, mind you. Now they're saying, okay, Hamas, if you're not going to play ball, if you're not going to meet these milestones with this 20-point plan, we are going to withhold aid. So we'll see how long. There will be a lot of international pressure on Israel to release the aid. The aid, of course, does benefit the terror groups and the gangs and the clans that try to use it and resell it on the black market. But of course, it also is going to hurt everyday Gazans. So it's going to be a calculus for Israel of how they can put pressure on Hamas, but not wanting to inflict too much pain, additional pain and measures on the people of Gaza.
And this is a very difficult situation. We were hearing from President Trump as he was celebrating this ceasefire, calling it historic, but did say that if Hamas doesn't fall in line with these agreed upon points that you shared, that the full force of the military will be put upon Hamas. Obviously, no one wants, any more, fatalities out there. But, is there talk that unfortunately that might have to happen if Hamas continues to refuse to follow the agreed upon ceasefire tenements?
So not just that, Stephanie, but I can also tell you that within the past 2 days, there have been announcements not only from Donald Trump himself, but also from CENTCOM, from the commander of CENTCOM, who is the most senior general in this arena for the US military, saying that Hamas is going to have consequences not only for attacking Israelis, but for killing Palestinians and for killing Gazans. Hamas has been, ever since the Israeli military pulled back to the agreed upon line, Hamas has been bloodletting and killing scores of its own people. So Hamas has been running amok of not only the letter of the ceasefire, but also of the spirit of the ceasefire by now turning its weapons on its own people. So I think that the US is standing behind Israel. They've said, look, Hamas is in clear violation. Israel's going to take care of it. We don't want this whole deal to fall apart. We do want to see a better future for Gaza. But on the other hand, Hamas is clearly testing boundaries here and trying to see how far they can push the Israelis before they have some sort of consequence. And that's exactly what we're seeing now.
And we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. And yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
And I also wanted to share this with our viewers from the Associated Press, stating that an Israeli security official says the transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza is halted until further notice after a Hamas ceasefire violation. Any developments, we, of course, will bring them to you when they happen.